Hi, hello, and welcome to the AEW All In 2024 Prediction Show. I am longtime pro wrestling pundit Steve Kaufmann, and joining me, as always, he's the encyclopedia of sports entertainment and local indie wrestler, George Hermoza. George, how you doing today?
Hello, good. How are you doing?
I'm also doing good. I think shot of espresso in the coffee, I think, is what got me this high up at 7 o'clock in the evening. But we're here to talk about, well, speaking of caffeine, we're all going to be up kind of early tomorrow, but we're here to talk today about AEW All In. And before we get into it, I'm kind of curious, what match are you most looking forward to seeing at their Wembley show, what's become their big show?
It's got to be the main event. I've been going back and forth because there are a lot of good stories that are actually leading up to All In, contrary to what a lot of people say on the net. But that main event has become very very must see. I'm going back and forth with who I think is going to win, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But yeah, that's the match where it can really go either way. There's this aspect of the Casino Gauntlet or whatever it's called these days, where are they kind of implying that it's kind of like a cash in any time? Because if that's the case, that might switch up what happens or my predictions for the end of the show. But the fact that I'm going through all these different scenarios in my head regarding the main event of Bryan Danielson and Swerve Strickland for the AEW World Championship goes to show that I'm prepared and I'm excited for whatever outcome they end up having. I'm not one of those people that says, "Oh, the finish didn't go my way, so I'm unhappy." You're like, no, like that's kind of childish to be honest with you.
Well,
But yeah, but either way, I'm very excited to see what this main event's going to provide.
but part of good storytelling is creating an expectation and sometimes subverting the expectation.
Yeah, yeah,
So if
one
Daniel
thousand
Bryan,
percent.
so if Dan, we're just gonna get into our predictions because it sounds like we're gonna waffle back and forth on Swerve Strickland versus Daniel Bryan, and Daniel Bryan has said if he loses this match, he will retire. Which are massive stakes, and in the history of professional wrestling, that usually means you're either going to win or you're going to lose and then not retire, which makes you not a good guy anymore. And those seem like the leading outcomes heading into tomorrow. Where are you leaning today?
So I've said this a couple days ago on a different platform, and I said because Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson has been saying on many interviews, many outlets and platforms, and saying my neck is beat up. My oldest daughter pretty much is forcing me to be home these days. Pretty much saying all these things that is probably implying that this is it, that this is going to be his last match after 25 years, and I can't help but to think what a worker. What a great, fantastic, phenomenal worker this man is. Because that is everything that people should be thinking about when it comes to this matchup, right? Because we hear those things and automatically our instinct is going to say, oh, well, he's clearly losing. You know, he keeps saying that he's got to get neck surgery by the end of the year. He keeps saying how he doesn't want to be away from home anymore. He keeps saying that, he always thought that 25 years, is a good amount of time to be wrestling. And I'm thinking like, is he really saying all this days before one of the biggest matches in AEW history? And I'm just like, what a worker, man! Like what a great work. And there's a possibility he still may lose, but at least the hamster's running right in my head.
Yeah.
But so many scenarios. An aspect of if this gauntlet casino, whatever it's called, they keep changing the name, whatever it is.
Yes.
If it is going to be a cash in any time, that may add on to Danielson's going to win and then get cashed in on right after that happens, similar to what we saw at SummerSlam 2013.
So I can fill you in on the verbiage. The official verbiage is it's a casino gauntlet match for a future AEW World Championship match. So
yeah, well, I mean that anything's in the future. It's like Mitch Hedberg said in a great joke one time. He was like, "Oh, take a look at this picture of me when I'm younger. Every picture of you is of you when you were younger. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but,
if you really think about
similarly, in pro wrestling as well, a future title match or even a future title opportunity isn't guaranteed either. Crime Time, sadly, not going to get theirs.
Yeah,
How many
that's
times
true.
did Crime Time win a future title opportunity? And then they
I
never
think like
actually.
once or twice, and it's crazy because you already have Darby Allin getting a championship match at the Arthur Ashe Grand Slam, whatever it is. I don't know if they've really announced what the main event of All Out's going to be. I mean, if I am going to predict, I mean, it's kind of a cop out. If it is a cash in anytime, I think Hangman's going to win that gauntlet, and he's going to cash in on Danielson as kind of a screw you to Swerve. It's Swerve's biggest match of his life, but also it's going to be Hangman that he still got beef with. It's going to be his moment that's going to end with All In. That's going to really stick it to both Danielson and Swerve. And if anything, that's going to be my prediction. I don't think Swerve wins. I think Danielson wins, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to be Hangman that's going to be raising his hand with the belt in the air, closing out All In as a big, screw you to both Swerve and to Danielson.
So you don't think it'll be. So I think if Bryan Danielson wins, it's going to be the send him home happy. Yes, yes, yes. Confetti, cry, big stadium moment in my head. That's what
you can still have that, but in the middle of the confetti, here comes Hangman Page.
But then you're not sending him home happy.
This is pro wrestling, man.
I know. So are you locking you in on the matchup? Are you Bryan or Swerve?
I'm Bryan Danielson.
Okay. I am also,
but with an asterisk.
I am also Bryan Danielson, but to your next point, I don't necessarily think, because I think if they treated the Casino Battle Royal like Money in the Bank,
Money in the Bank,
that would have been historically set up either heading into this match or historically, and neither is the case. That it's historically been made clear that you win a poker chip that says AEW on it, and that poker chip is good for you to ask for a future world title match.
So here's the storytelling part that I think is going to
Yes.
really make a lot of people like, oh, okay. Is I want to say, and this isn't official, I don't think they ever mentioned it, is Hangman is owed a favor by the Bucks because he was on that team EVP, at the Blood and Guts. So I feel like that's going to get incorporated in terms of like Hangman's going to cash in on a favor and be able to use that championship shot at the end of that main event. And that's how Hangman's going to get his. Maybe it's not going to be implied that this is it's cashing at any time like a Money in the Bank, but this is more like I'm cashing in my favor with the Bucks in order to get my championship shot right now and to ensure that I walk out of All In as the AEW World Champion.
I always felt that they missed an opportunity to have the winner of the Casino Battle Royal win the champion's chip, but I digress. Because it's a physical chip. The alliteration is right there.
Yeah.
I have to lock in on Daniel Bryan. As much as, and hear me out, as much as I would love
Daniel Bryan to close out the show and to
close out the show.
Close
there's
out All
nothing.
In as Danielson.
In my head, there's just confetti. Yes, yes, yes. They go off the air. He grabs the microphone. He says, "Thank you all so much, Wembley." It's tearful, joyful, and then a press conference happens that hopefully doesn't overshadow the whole thing.
So here's my thing, and this is just my reasoning behind it, is they're not like, what's the point? Okay, you want to send them home happy, but what if you don't? What if my scenario happens? What's the worst case scenario? They ain't coming back next year anyways, but they're going to be somewhere else for All In. But I just feel like that's going to create so much buzz of like, now you have not just the story between Swerve and Hangman that keeps going on and on because of how personal it got, but now you got the Danielson of saying like, man, what do? I didn't walk out of All In as world champion, but I won the match. I can't just retire like this. I can't just walk out, even though I said I'm walking out of All In as champion, or else I retire. Like, how do you close the book on your career after that kind of fluke? I just think there's so many possibilities when it comes to that scenario that I mentioned, in addition to like, this business is built on heat, not on sending them home happy. It's built on heat in order to send people home happy, but you're already in motion for the next thing that's going to create the most heat that's going to in turn send them home happy at some point.
I don't hate that. I just didn't.
Yeah.
That, and also in the moment, in the evening, for them to narratively inform us that when you win the championship, I'm coining it right now.
Yeah.
Previously, you would have had to set up a match, but because he won the championship and then he's the friends with the Young Bucks, he's then able to use the championship better than anyone else has, or different than anyone else has.
Yeah.
I think that's just a lot of storytelling to do on the day. I've seen bigger feats happen in pro wrestling before, but that's where my head's at. But we both think Daniel Bryan's winning. We don't think this is some type of long-term swerve, pun intended, that this is Daniel Bryan's going to have a great moment at Wembley. It's a well-deserved moment given his career. But given you took us there, let's get into the Casino Gauntlet. Before I ask you who you think, because it sounds like you think Adam Page is going to win the Casino Gauntlet, who do you think we're going to see in the Casino Gauntlet? Do you think there are going to be any surprises? Do you think there are going to be any debuts?
So my gut is saying Bobby Lashley, and I was thinking about it today. The magical thing about this match is that there can be guys without losing their heat. Why? Because they don't have to get pinned to get eliminated, right? The first pinfall, and it can literally end with the first two people in the ring. And, all the people that were waiting in the back, like, that's just the way it is. That's just the way the match works, right? If you don't like it, don't be part of the match. So I like that aspect of, this isn't like a Royal Rumble or a Battle Royal where at some point somebody's going to get eliminated. We all think the same thing, where they bring in some huge star or they bring back some returning star in the Rumble, and we're like, man, like, I don't see this person getting eliminated, but also I don't see them winning either. But at some point they're going to get eliminated. And that's kind of the magical thing about like this match, is where you have maybe Bobby Lashley coming in and he doesn't have to get pinned or eliminated or thrown over the top rope, or whatever the rules are, without losing the match. It just, I didn't get a chance to get the pinfall, and then that's the way it is. So with that said, I do feel like we are going to see some surprises. It's pretty much official that Ricochet is on his way to AEW. I don't see him debuting just there.
I don't see him debuting in this match unless he's going to win.
Me neither. I don't.
Who's to say he doesn't win? That would be. So yeah, same thing with Lashley. That if you put Lashley or Ricochet in this match, one of them should just win the whole match. I think Jeff Jarrett's going to make a very big showing. I love the storytelling we're doing with Jeff Jarrett. That there's one more big one in him.
Yeah.
And we just get to tell that story every time he goes to the ring, whether it's a Casino Battle Royal or a Casino Gauntlet match where he could, or it's just a match on Collision where he's, boosting his record.
Yeah.
I love the Jeff Jarrett story. Does Miro still work there?
Yeah.
Hobbs still works there?
Yes. Miro still works there.
Well, actually, somebody texted him. Is Miro in London? Can we expect Miro at all in the Casino Battle?
I don't think he's in London. I think Hobbs is hurt, unfortunately. Don't know where Wardlow is. I think Keith Lee might be injured as well. But if we are going to see a surprise, I do think we're going to see Bobby Lashley, and they better find a very good way to make sure that he doesn't win the match without looking weak. Because if there is a guy that should be winning the match and should automatically be inserted into any world title picture, it's Bobby Lashley.
I don't disagree with you, but he's not to make it a WWE versus AEW thing, but there is definitely a different body type and moveset to an AEW superstar versus a WWE superstar. And if we're talking about the two likely debuts tomorrow, Ricochet fits that mold of an AEW moveset, an AEW superstar, than Bobby Lashley does.
Yeah.
And they've had Bobby Lashley types in the past, and they've not presented them in a way that could be best. But personally, I think Ricochet wins. I think Ricochet debuts, wins, everybody's happy.
So he goes on to face at some point Bryan Danielson then?
Correct. But because it's a future title match, it doesn't have to be he enters the Casino Gauntlet match. I keep saying ladder match. It's a Casino Gauntlet match this time. He wins the Casino Gauntlet match, and now in 2 weeks at All Out, he's the contender for the World Championship. That's not a guarantee. He can historically that the winner of the Casino Gauntlet match or the Casino Ladder match can challenge at a later date. And the later date can sometimes be very, very, very late.
See, I see, and we can probably, I guess, maybe segue into the next match where I feel like after the Ricochet MJF match, Ospreay is going to win back the American Championship, not the International Championship, and then Ricochet comes out at the end of that match, has a face-to-face with Ospreay, sets up their match at All Out, but at the same time, like, I don't really see Ricochet. I mean, like. Here's the biggest thing about pro wrestling is like I feel like a lot of people think that Ricochet, he can't lose his first match in AEW, right? Like why not? Like it's not the end of the world. I mean, Dominic Mysterio lost his first match and look where he is now.
Also, if it's against MJF, who's been there the longest, has one of the best win-loss records in AEW, like there are reasons for why he should or shouldn't win. But keeping to it, you jumped us to MJF. We have MJF, the AEW American Champion. I think that's the third time they've changed the name of that title. Yeah. Versus Will Ospreay, who, if you had told me in May that Will Ospreay is going to be fighting for a title at Wembley in August, I would have told you the world. Would you have told you the world?
Absolutely not.
Really? You didn't think?
Absolutely not. I did not. I didn't think so. I think it would be a bad idea for him to go after the AEW World Championship so soon. At least it tells me, if that was the case, I think it'd be a big slap in the face to the AEW roster that this New Japan guy comes in and just 4 months later he gets a world title match just because it's in Wembley. I don't know. I've been saying that for a few months.
He did, but he also got a title shot even sooner.
Yeah.
So, like, to your point, it kind of makes it even worse. But I think he was red hot heading into the match with Swerve,
especially with it making it seem like All In maybe is their WrestleMania. So I try to think about that aspect, right? Are they going to bring in some guy that just started 6 months ago and have a main event WrestleMania? Maybe not this year, maybe next year, but maybe not so soon. So I was thinking about that aspect of why not have Ospreay this year? Because like, well, you're just going to reward all these New Japan guys, whatever. But you're right in terms of like I did see him have a high profile match at All In at Wembley. I thought his last year's match was actually made me an actual fan of Will Ospreay because he didn't rely on just being a spot monkey. I thought he actually worked a really good match with Chris Jericho last year. With that said, I do think Ospreay is going to get his championship back, thus setting up the Ricochet Ospreay match at All Out. I don't think that'll be Ricochet's first match in AEW. He'll probably have a match on Dynamite, maybe the week after, or maybe the week before All Out. Or maybe not. I know they got a big show coming up for their 5th anniversary show that I think is going to go. No, it's not going to go head to head with NXT. I think this is the week after, but I know either way they're going to have 2 really big weeks when it comes to their 5th anniversary show, and then I'm sure they'll be stacking up against NXT when they go to Tuesday that one night.
I have to agree with you here that it's Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
Especially given in 2 weeks you need another match for MJF, and those two are just so good on the mic, so good in the ring, so good at all the things that are pro wrestling that we love, that I can't see a way around not allowing for this such an easy rubber match. I also love just the work that MJF is doing with this title being the American title. Yeah. And I'm also just narratively very curious to see what happens if Will Ospreay wins it back. Does he change the title back? Does he call it the British title? Does he call it the Welsh title? Like, where does he go from there? And I think just the world is your oyster at that point. I'm trying to find a match where we're going to disagree. We kind of disagree on the Casino Battle Royal, but that's mainly because of the stipulation around it. Let's go to the top. This will be in the pre-show. It's going to be Chris Statlander.
I want to say, to be fair, even because I came up with that scenario like literally in the last 15 minutes, I would have thought Hangman wins that match regardless of how the show ends.
Okay, that's fair. That you think that match is for Hangman and that Hangman is next in any way.
Yes.
Okay. I don't particularly see that. I think it's
You
a
think it's
little
Ricochet?
I think it's already kind of crowded at the top. So let's just run down the card. We have Chris Statlander. This will be in the pre-show, so this will happen at 9 a.m. for us on Pacific time. It's Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway versus Willow Nightingale and Tomohiro Ishii. And the winning team will choose the stipulation of the match between Willow Nightingale and Statlander for All Out, which is in 2 weeks.
Oh, I didn't catch that stipulation.
It's the 9 a.m. match for us, so that we could be given a little grace.
Yeah.
I guess the easiest way to answer this question is: do you see Statlander or Nightingale winning at All Out? At which point you could probably go in reverse.
You see, now that you mentioned that's the stipulation, that kind of changes up who I think is going to win. I've been saying it for a good 6 months to a year. I can't get enough of Willow. I think she is absolutely fantastic. I think she is a future star in the making. I think she should be at some point within the next 2 years, not just the face of AEW women's division, but one of the faces in all of women's wrestling, period. With that said, I'm really digging this feud, and I wish it wasn't a mixed tag match that on the 0 hour, because I really think this feud could have really been built up and really mean something on the main card. Again, we're going to naturally compare to WrestleMania, but we've never seen a one-on-one match between two women that wasn't for a championship at a WrestleMania. So I feel like this was their opportunity to have this really high-profile match between two women who are in a blood feud with each other, have a big profile match at an All In. And I'm not a fan of that not being a match at All In. I'm kind of upset that it's just a mixed tag match at 0 hour. It's a pre-show. It's a free-for-all.
Not only that, a mixed tag match at 0 hour to determine the stipulation for the Chicago match.
This match should have been like 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And then the blow-off should have been during All In.
Yeah, the blow-off can be during All In, but I do think... I'm curious what they're trying... It's kind of an everybody get in here thing too, because you want Stokely Hathaway and you want Tomohiro Ishii, and you want to involve all those people, but you don't. We're already at 11 matches, including this one.
I think
total for the evening.
I think there might be one more. I don't know if we'll mention it. And it mentioned they talked about a Collision, but I don't know if it's in your rundown. But with that said, we'll talk about it right afterwards.
Yeah, let me know if it's not in my rundown, and we'll.
It should be in the 0 hour. Is there any other match that's scheduled for 0 hour?
I only have one match scheduled for the 0 hour.
So
which
the
means
match
we have
that I'm talking about,
the
match I'm talking about should be in 0 hour. And I'll tell you in a second what. But either way, I do think now with the stipulation, it's going to be a victory for Stat and I almost called him Malcolm Bivens and Stokely Hathaway, and that's heat, right?
Yeah.
Like what's the heat that we want to see if Willow wins the match and now she's got to kind of.
She gets to, and then because she's a babyface, she gets to pick. Everything's fair stipulation.
Yeah. It should be the heel that stacks up the odds against the babyface, and then the babyface overcomes.
Yeah, the heel gets to pick a Chris Statlander wins match.
Yeah,
and then heading into All Out, Willow Nightingale has to overcome. So I think we're on the same page about that, and I'll just run down the way I have it. The Patriarchy, which is Christian Cage, Killswitch, and Nick Wayne with Mother Wayne, versus the Bang Bang Gang, which is Juice Robinson and the Guns, Austin and Colton, versus House of Black, Malachi Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews, versus Pac and the Blackpool Combat Club, who are Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta.
In the ladder match.
I was too busy naming all the teams to say that is a 4-way London ladder match for the AEW Trios Championship. Who do you like here?
The team. I mean, I like the House of Black. I think it is an absolute shame that Pac and the BCC are in this match, because they have no business teaming with each other. Like, that's not a trios, right? Like, when I think trios, I think they've done a really good job with the House of Black. I think they've done a really good job with Bang Bang Gang and the Patriarchy. And then you have these random 3 guys. I mean, I guess 2 and 1, where it's like I don't even think they were getting along like 6 months ago, and now they're just randomly put together as a team. I know the easy money would be Pac and the BCC because they keep talking about Pac getting his Wembley moments, but it should be the patriarchy, and that's going to be my pick to win the match because I think there is so much money left with the patriarchy and him giving a championship, Christian getting a championship, the belt to Mother Wayne as opposed to Luchasaurus, who's actually the actual champion, but isn't allowed to really hold the championship belt. And I think there's still some juice left in that kind of story.
I think the patriarchy is an incredibly hot act in AEW that does not need to be trios champions. Like, I think them coming out and just raining on whatever parade they see fit is more valuable to the organization than them doing that holding belts. I'm between House of Black and Pac and the Blackpool Combat Club, but I think I have to go with House of Black. I think they're far and away like the strong team, the strong unit, and the more I think about it, the more I think Pac and the Blackpool Combat Club are just spoilers in a way that they don't necessarily stand a chance. They're a thrown together team. They're doing a lot of stuff. I think House of Black is who I've got here.
So there is one more match, and if it's not on 0 Hour, I will be absolutely shocked. So on Collision, this is a random team, the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, made an open challenge for Wembley. So it's like I have no idea who's going to be. I know they invited the Von Erichs to kind of be there to watch their back and whatnot, and Shibata. So, but like I said, there's just like no buzz or no heat regarding the ROH Tag Team Championship.
Of course.
That if they're on the main show and not 0 Hour, I'd be like, oh my God, like what I don't know. But I think it's going to be a 0 Hour match. No idea I have no idea, no inclination on who they're going to face.
So I'll stick with you we should talk about that in the 0 Hour segment of our prediction show. And that is listed as one of the 11 matches for the evening. It's Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, who are the ROH Tag Team Champions.
Against
against TBA. The win-loss record of TBA, he's not as good as Vacant. Vacant is undefeated. Nobody's ever beaten Vacant. FTR?
No.
But why? Like, I don't know what. Like,
no, they're already in a match.
Okay, you're right. FTR.
They're in a 3-way match.
Yeah, you're right. The Briscoes, but then why have an open challenge? Like, the thing about an open challenge is it needs to be somebody who's not on the show that you made the open challenge.
The Briscoe and whoever he's with, like Kyle O'Reilly and all, they're in the Casino Gauntlet.
You're right. Or presumably. We don't know anyone in the Casino Gauntlet, but presumably they're in the Casino Gauntlet. Is there a tag team that's been released recently that we're just forgetting? Like,
it can be the Grizzled Young Vets or the Grizzled. Is that what are their names?
They were the Grizzled Young Vets in NXT, so they'd be the Grizzled something else.
Yeah, GYT or whatever you know.
Yeah, whatever they want to be.
I mean, that's one. I mean, they're from the UK, so that'd be a cool moment for them.
I think you might have landed on it just by happenstance of just.
I don't know. These Outrunners, those guys are growing on me.
Oh, the Outrunners are. But
they're like a Rampage staple.
But as a and I don't understand how the delineation works. As a Rampage staple, wouldn't Ring of Honor be a lesser seen show? No, is it all everything?
I don't know. You have like the Ring of Honor World Champion. I think it's still Mark Briscoe. Like he's featured on. Is it still Mark Briscoe? He's featured on AEW on a regular basis, but yet the Ring of Honor Women's Champion hasn't really been seen on AEW. I think once in the last like year and a half, 2 years. So it's like make that make sense. So yeah, there's I don't know what's going on.
And it's Mark Briscoe since April 5th, so that would have been
he won
the Philadelphia
Mania
show.
weekend. Yeah.
Yes.
He beat Eddie Kingston.
So you kind of convinced me that this is going to be the Outrunners.
No, it's not going to be the Outrunners.
What are the Outrunners just going to be like cannon fodder in the Casino Gauntlet? Like I think
no, I don't even think they're going to be. They're going to be at All In.
And I'm pretty sure this happened on air, so I'm not betraying anyone's confidences. But of all of the people that appear on AEW's television. I produce the Kevin Nash podcast every week. Click this. If you subscribe on the Patreon, you'll see a bit more of my face. And I don't know if it was on or off air, but of all the people Kevin Nash could have mentioned about having seen and liked on AEW television, he said, "Oh boy, you know them Outrunners. I'm really, really enjoying what they're doing. Like a very 80s throwback team." And I don't know, maybe I'm trying to will it into existence, but I think if somebody can get Kevin Nash's attention, I feel like there's something there. But it's probably, if we had to guess, I'd say it's either the grizzled British
I would guess
veterans,
it's the grizzled young vets. I don't know, because like there hasn't been any kind of build up, so it can really be anybody random. Like they just beat the Kingdom, Taven and Bennett, so I hope it's not them. Like does Adam Cole come back at some point? Like he main evented last year's All In. Like is he going to make some kind of impact? I don't know.
But do you put Adam Cole? Is that Adam Cole's big return?
No, it can't be. It shouldn't be. I don't know. I'm gonna go with the vets
because I have the Ring of Honor roster page up, and I think we're in agreement that it's nobody on this page.
I don't even know who's on the roster.
This page is just more scant than I thought it would be. But I'm gonna say one. I think one of us is gonna be right, and I'm gonna say the Outrunners.
Like if they're building this like against an open challenge, right? Like it can't be anybody that's on the roster or on the Ring of Honor roster. Like and plus like those championships mean like nothing at all. So even in like the land of kayfabe, I'm like, why the hell do I want to be a Ring of Honor tag team champion?
Fair. I mean, the real question is, actually, two questions. One, do you think it's on the pre-show? I don't think it's on the pre-show.
I think it's got to be on the 0 hour.
Okay.
You can't not put any like actual investment in, let me rephrase that. You can't not put such an investment only to put on the main show that they have so much story going on. Like every one of these matches and All In means something, right? Some mean way more than others. So to have this kind of match where they literally just won the tag team championships like a week ago. And now like this week, they're like, oh, we're going to have an open challenge. And for that to be put with no story on the main card.
If it's the British young veterans, we'll go with that.
That's still no story.
It's a thrown together story, but a homecoming for the British young veterans, I'm okay with that. I guess you're right. I think it's the Outrunners. It's on the pre-show. And then whoever debuts, they need to win.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing them win. I mean, or it might be the Maximum Male Models. Mason, man, I know it's not Mansoor, or it is Mansoor, but like whatever Mace calls himself, Mace, or whatever new name he's going, because they've been doing some great things on whatever TV time they've been given. Those guys are killing it every single week. So I wouldn't mind seeing them come in and challenge for the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships.
I wouldn't mind that either. That's going to be some 9 a.m. action for us. Speaking of tag teams, we have a 3-way tag team match for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. We got the Young Bucks versus FTR versus the Acclaimed. How fractured do you think the Acclaimed are right now?
I think they need not so much a character change, but I do think they need like a fresh coat of paint. I'd love to see them maybe turn heel. I like that Max Caster isn't always doing the raps. I think at some point, you kind of have to, not like John Cena. John Cena at some point he was like, "Oh, I can't be rapping every single week." But then when he did rap later on, and throughout the years, it was a lot more special. So I like that aspect. I think Bowens is great on the mic, but I would like to see something like a character change, maybe like go a little heel. Because I do feel like those pops that were around a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, are not there anymore. Whether that's the Acclaim's fault, whether that's the booking's fault, I don't know. Whatever it is, it's happening. With that said, I do think the Bucks are going to retain and they're going to carry on as AEW Tag Team Champions, leaving All In.
I do as well. I think that's why I was posing a broader question, because I think the Young Bucks are, I don't want to say forever champs, but this particular run and the story they're telling as EVPs is going to be EVPs and founders who are at war with the establishment. Like I think we're in for a long run there. And I love FTR, but I would love to see more storytelling around FTR thinking that the company should be run different. But as it stands right now, it's just the Young Bucks are going to have a really, really cool match, and then
I'd like to see more.
probably pin Anthony Bowens.
Yeah. I'd like to see more of Bucks against FTR. Like a lot of people are saying, like, oh, it's so repetitive. But I just think if you do it right, like those guys have great matches every single time they're in the ring, and nobody complained when it was a Rock and Roll and Midnight Express every single week. You know, and granted, maybe it was on a national worldwide platform like it is now. Well, that's like they always, even the local fans that would watch those matches every single week, they're like, man, like these guys offer something different every single week, and I'd love to see that aspect of tag team wrestling come back, not just kind of one and done. I'd like to see, Young Bucks and FTR just kind of, have a little do-over every few months or every few years. I feel like this is the time where I feel like we should be seeing a lot more of, focus on tag team wrestling. I feel like it's kind of taking a back seat in both companies. So I feel like this is their chance to really bring it back to the spotlight.
I remember like 2014, 2015, there was a time I thought we were entering an age where tag teams would be so popular that they could headline B-towns.
Like they did back in the day.
Like Rock and Roll Express did way back in the day, but we didn't quite get there, and I'd love to see us return.
It's crazy because like I'm doing like a SummerSlam, like I'm trying to rank every SummerSlam match for a future video, and 88, 89, 1990, and 1992, they all opened the show with a tag team match, and 91 was a 6-man tag. So clearly there was a time where they were like, we need we all know that the second most important match of a show is the opening match right behind the main event. So obviously there was some, mindset of people back then where we have to have two great teams open up the show because we know that's going to get the hot crowd. So I'd like to see that mentality come back into wrestling when it comes to seeing a good old-fashioned tag team match.
Gotta love a good old-fashioned tag team match. What's not a good old-fashioned tag team match is Chris Jericho with Big Bill versus Hook in a last chance match for the FTW Championship. If Hook loses, he can never challenge for the FTW Championship for as long as Chris Jericho is champion. The unspoken thing that is seemingly not spoken on TV but is known to us is that Hook is Taz's son, and Taz is the originator of the FTW Championship. And I love that they've had the patience to never outright say that on television. Because that is an extra level of storytelling. I don't think they've ever outright said that in the same like encapsulated sentence, both of those facts at the same time. That Hook is Taz's son, and Taz is the originator of the FTW title. I don't think those facts have appeared together that close together ever on their television. And like, I don't know, a last chance match feels like a time to say that to a certain extent you get to say that the FTR title is Hook's birthright to a certain extent. Like similar to Ted DiBiase Jr. was $1 Million champion. Like it's the same parallel. I don't see Hook not winning, do you?
No, he's not. He's not going to lose. Are we just doing predictions, or are we doing thoughts of the actual angle itself?
This is the time for both.
I can't stand whatever this is happening in this match. When it comes to Hook, we all remember when he first started wrestling. We all thought, oh my God, this guy is amazing. This guy's great. There has been absolutely no kind of evolution when it comes to Hook in the last 2 or 3 years. This guy's still wrestling for the FTW Championship, a belt that means essentially nothing. Like you said, this championship is a family loom. It's a family or heirloom. Like this should be more than just like, this is something that belongs to the family. And I think that what they should be pushing more about is instead of like, Chris Jericho is being a heel, I think it's a complete shame that Hook has not Like, there was a time even like 2-3 years ago, or maybe 2 years ago, where there were a lot of comparisons between Hook and Dominic Mysterio. And at the time, Hook had a better trajectory, right? He was having better matches. He was, just having a better performance. He had a more of a presence. And man, those 2 years, like, and I'm not taking anything away from Dominic Mysterio, but there's no reason why Hook should be in the same spot that he is right now than he was 2 years ago. And that is just floundering over a championship that isn't even real. So I feel like Hook should win the match. And then coming up on Dynamite, he says, "You know what? Like, I wanted to win the title, not because I wanted to be a champion, because we all know the championship isn't real, but because Chris Jericho took something from me and my family, and that's what's important." With that said, I am not only relinquishing this championship, but I'm also going to retire it, which means this title is always going to stay within the family, and you're never going to see it again. With that said, you're going to see me go after real championships now, which means I'm going to be going after the TNT championship. I'm going to be going after Continental championship. Maybe I'll even go after a tag team champion because, me and Samoa Joe are boys. Maybe we'll go after the trio championship because me, Samoa Joe, and Shibata are boys. Or maybe I'll go after the Ring of Honor championship. But either way, I want him to just kind of move forward with his career as opposed to just floundering in over a championship that isn't even like legitimized.
I think they've done a decent job of semi-legitimizing the FTW title. I think what delegitimizes it is how many other titles exist on that roster.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
To your point about, I don't want to say floundering, but I will say stagnating. What did Hook do at last year's Wembley show?
We all know what Hook did, but nobody remembers what Hook did. We all know what his opponent did.
Yes, we all remember, but that was also on the 0 hour. So
Yep.
the stagnation in his career he needs to be looking at is last year, I thought Jack Perry in the 0 hour for the FTW title. This year, I'm fighting Chris Jericho on the main show for the FTW title.
Yeah,
So
that is an upgrade.
But he needs to assess, and only he can assess this incrementally, where that should or shouldn't be for him in his career.
Yeah.
Like, that feels, from his trajectory 2 years ago, that feels like a bit of a plateau, or a bit of an unsturdy plateau, I think. But we both think he's going to win tomorrow, and then that'll give him momentum to do something else.
Like in the land of kayfabe, right? If I'm a professional wrestler immersed in this world of AEW, right? And I see my win-loss record, and I see the things that I'm doing, and I beat a former world champion in Chris Jericho, why should I not be going after any other championships?
Yes.
And I want to see that with Hook. And we haven't been seeing any glimpses of that in any way for the last 2 years.
Is Fozzy going on tour?
They're going to perform tomorrow. But
that's what I mean. But starting tomorrow, if Fozzy goes on tour, that means Jericho doesn't need anybody to work with, and then that's Hook can move on from Jericho.
Oh, he's going to move on regardless.
Well, yes.
I think they got to be done with the storyline. But yeah, I'd like to see them get rid of the belt because I feel like it's holding him back in many, many ways.
We're in agreement. I think the belt could mean more if they have less belts, but that's a broader criticism. Speaking of Jack Perry, we're going to have Jack Perry versus Darby Allin in a coffin match for the AEW TNT Championship. I'm just going to ask you as a prediction, glass coffin, yes or no?
No.
No? Okay. I was thinking it would be a glass coffin, and they're going to go out of their way to mention it's real glass.
I think it's best to kind of leave that alone. I mean, it'd be a cool throwback,
because they've totally left that alone, right?
I mean, they have. The other guy hasn't.
The guy who left has.
Yeah.
This isn't the We Hate AEW podcast. I can move on.
No, like I love all wrestling, and if they do it, I'll chuckle. Because like I said, considering everything that happened at last year's All In, that would make me chuckle if they came out like a glass coffin,
or even if the top of the coffin were glass, and then My worry is that they would like it could just be an insider thing where Tony Schiavone
But
just tongue in cheek goes, "I bet that's real glass,"
I
and then
mean,
they
like,
move on.
but if it's real glass, then like, how do you win the match? By closing a topless glass broken, shut it down when it's already
Yeah,
kind of broken.
fair. I you gotta. Who do
There,
you
might- there might be a glass spot. I just don't think it'll be. I don't think it'll be the coffin.
who do you like here?
Jack Perry. Jack Perry all the way.
I so badly want to disagree with you on something, but Jack Perry, he's speaking of a hot act,
Although,
speaking of heat, this is it.
although Darby Allin does have an upcoming AEW World Championship match, so how do you lose? I mean, obviously with interference, but how do you just kind of lose any kind of momentum you have coming toward that match? Like, I'd be like, oh yeah, like, why is he getting an AEW World Title match? He just lost against a TNT champion. I'm still gonna go with Jack Perry.
I think Jack Perry or no contest is
Like, no contest, a coffin match.
if he like goes away in an ambulance or like there's a fireworks explode like or like he loses in absentia. I understand that would be a really weird way to end a match, but it's not impossible. Let's get speaking of really weird ways to end a match. Let's go to Mercedes Moné with Camille versus Dr. Britt Baker, a singles match for the AEW TBS Championship.
We're not going to disagree.
Yeah, once again, we're not going to disagree. Mercedes, like you don't put Mercedes Moné in this position to not have her run down everybody, like run over everybody in her path. I think this will be a great match. I think Britt Baker's going to look great. I think Mercedes Moné is going to look great. I hope they place it at a point where people are really going to be into it because there are plenty of spots where this match could come off like a fart in church, but there's no way she doesn't win.
I really like the build-up for this match. I think it's one of the high-profile matches for the women that we've seen in the last couple of years. And we've only seen we haven't really seen DMD wrestle that much. And I know there's a lot of backstage rumors regarding her right now. Who cares? But I honestly, just because I see there's more, no pun intended, money in Mercedes winning, I think she's been more than happy to drop the belt. I think we underestimate her willingness to do business the right way. I think if the story was good, I think she'd be more than happy to drop the belt. But I do see not only Mercedes winning the match, but I see her moving on to getting more belts or more gold around her waist, maybe going after the Ring of Honor championship match. And I'd love to see some kind of high profile match with Mercedes and Athena, maybe at All Out or maybe at Grand Slam or just something. Cause I feel like, Mercedes is such a benefit because I didn't realize, I always knew she was good, but I didn't know she was that good in the ring. Because maybe just other people are not as polished enough, and unfortunately, hates me to say, but I mean, I'm seeing her in these AEW matches, and I'm just like, man, this girl, she is clearly the best wrestler on the entire roster, and I think, they should keep showcasing that.
Do you think the build to this match could have been better if Britt Baker were on TV all of the weeks?
No. Not really. I think it's been good. I think there was 1 week where it's like, oh, that's funny. She's not really in the building, or whatever happened backstage. But I mean, they did stuff on Collision. They reference it on Rampage and whatnot. So in Collision, they had a big thing last week on the show that kind of got them some heat. But I think it was fine. I think they both got their enough mic time. I think they both got enough physicality on each other. And what more can you really want? There's only so many promos you can do in the build up for a match. There's only so much physicality you can do in a match. So I feel like they each got enough, promo time, especially after that first week, to really build this match.
I don't know. I think they didn't tell the story. They didn't completely tell the story they could have told. But if Britt Baker loses in a valiant effort, who's to say we don't, like, this match couldn't have enough staying power to just move into All Out? And just we do another one.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of predictions involving Jamie Hayter coming back and maybe costing Britt Baker the match. That's one possibility.
That'd be interesting. That would be an interesting way to shelve all of it. Speaking of women's matches, we have Timeless Toni Storm versus Glamour Mariah May in the singles match for the AEW Women's World Championship, or Women's World Championship. That's how they call it.
I think we're gonna disagree on this one.
Okay, who do you got?
I got Toni Storm.
We are definitely going to disagree on this one. I think we were watching World's End at the end of December this year, and we were watching the Mariah May Toni Storm act, and I think it was I told you and you agreed, or you told me and I agreed, that the plan is for at some point Mariah May to very slowly just become Timeless Toni Storm. To a point that by this time next year, Toni Storm can just be like an Aussie rocker or like closer to who she is in real life. And then Timeless Toni Storm is just Mariah May, or it's Timeless Mariah May. And we're like 80% the way there. And the championship is one of the steps to them just settling it where Toni Storm creates a gimmick, Toni Storm perfects a gimmick, Mariah May, throughout a very long story, gets to step completely into the gimmick. And that's where I see us going. So I see Mariah May getting crowned tomorrow night. And you don't? We're disagreeing on one?
No, I think Toni Storm's going to win. I will say, and you asked the question for the last match, and I'm going to pretend like you asked me the question for this match. I wish this one had more promo time. I feel like this one, there was missing a segment at some point on Dynamite or Collision where it should just be them talking. No physicality, drop the, because, every time we've seen them on the same screen, there's always some kind of physicalities ever since, with the breakup happened, there's always been some kind of physicality. I personally was missing that face-to-face, one-on-one, or even not face-to-face, maybe the split screen that we're doing right now, right? Just something where they can kind of go back and forth. I never really got that, and I wish there was some kind of back and forth with them on the mic or back and forth with them verbally, and I wish we would have got that.
I think so too, because it's kind of one note, because they even did it. They had like their pep rally or whatever they called it yesterday, and that same thing. Toni Storm in no shoes runs out and starts beating down Mariah May, and like that. To a certain extent, all of the promos were the exact same note.
Yeah, it was just Mariah saying, like, of course I turned. Like, that was my plan the whole time, which is great. Like, I'm not complaining about what her mindset was. I just would have wanted to see them at some point, like Batman and Joker. Like, they weren't just fighting all the time. There was that promo, I guess you can say, at the end of the movie where they were at least able to, like, chit-chat a little bit, Yeah,
the moment where they just get into it. And, like, I think you're right. I think this match will be great. And I think this story... We're breaking out into the third act of this story, and I think it's one of the better long-term stories in pro wrestling right now.
I just think there's more money in everything that Mariah's been doing for it not to pay off at the moment. Fair. I think she's trying to do everything she can, but then she realized it just wasn't enough, because I think that highly of Toni Storm.
If you truly think it's going to be Toni Storm, I can send you to a sports book that'll give you 4-1.
Ooh.
So if you're interested,
I kind of want to win $40.
It's going to be an offshore book, so you might want to put a little bit more in.
Maybe I'll get
it's going to be hard to get it back. But that's all 11 matches. We were able to cover them in under an hour, which was there was a moment I thought 45 minutes, and then I forgot it was us.
With that said, there are rumors.
Okay.
Becky Lynch.
Oh, Becky Lynch is a movie star.
What movie is she in?
Doesn't matter. She's not. I can name you plenty of movie stars that aren't currently in movies that are going to be in movies. And also she was in a deleted scene from the Eternals. They had we don't know. It's a giant mystery beyond the fact that there was a post-credit scene in the Eternals that they shot with Becky Lynch. So Becky Lynch is riding in those circles.
Did I not know that, or did I just forget that?
You probably didn't know that. It's not incredibly well known, but I'm not breaking anyone's confidentiality. The reason my brain went there is because Captain America: Brave New World, which was formerly titled Captain America: New World Order.
Bow, 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 bow.
They, in the process of reshoots, put Giancarlo Esposito in as the villain, and then wrote out one Seth Rollins, who is the husband to one Becky Lynch. So I can't think of any other married couple in the world that have both been written out of Marvel movies before they
Like
premiered.
I'm just curious, like if she were to show up, because I feel like there is this loyalty to WWE, right? And it's not like a blind loyalty. It's just like, hey man, like they gave me a shot. I'd like to go back there at some point. And she really does have nothing left to prove. She's a mom. So I'm curious if there's a world where she would just show up there just for All In and never show up ever again.
So you would say she just shows up on that television in the ring, doesn't point to a sign, doesn't signify that she wants to have a match. She just shows up there to get everyone talking about the possibility of her working there.
Yeah. And then never shows up again. I don't know. I mean, I don't think that probably is good business sense.
I don't think that's good business for Becky Lynch or AEW.
Or more so AEW. I mean, Becky Lynch, she's going to get a payday just to show up and do nothing.
I think what's more likely is we'll get, funny enough, similar to Wembley last year, we could see a shot of Becky Lynch in the crowd with Kevin Undergaro. I'm kidding. I don't think he's involved in her career, but like.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, he might be, but I just think he's going to be too busy. He's going to be too busy doing other things that he's not going to be able to be in the crowd.
If you're asking me if I think Becky Lynch is turning up at All In London, I think decidedly no. Because the way I see her career trajectory going is I see her more in the line of a John Cena or a Batista, where wrestling is gonna kind of be in her back mirror, and a thing that her husband does. So like in that way that she's still actively involved, and that's not ruling out the possibility of her running in here and there, like even working a couple weeks here or there. But I don't see her coming back to either company full time in the way she was in 2018, 2019.
I think she's completely done being a full-time wrestler. Yeah, I don't know. Like it can't just be Matt. There has to be some kind of surprise. I mean, Ricochet, the fact that they already pretty much announced that he's there, like that's no longer a surprise. Maybe Lashley shows up at some point.
Lashley's a big surprise.
Yeah,
I think you're undervaluing the great British young veterans. Got there real fast, didn't work.
I think they can still
Great
call
British
themselves the
Bake Off
Grizzled
young
Young
wrestler.
Vets.
I'm sure if they don't debut there, they're going to debut soon because they're an incredible asset to any wrestling company. And I think this wrestling company particularly.
Like I know they had an indie show like a week or two ago out in Los Angeles, and then I know they did one stint in AEW like 2-3 months ago. But who knows? I mean, they're out there. They're free agents, so I think that would make it's going to be either them or the models, the two models, Mansoor and Massey, whatever their name is.
You probably landed on that, or like
it's
Jeff
not
Jarrett.
going to be the Outrunners.
No, I'm sticking with the Outrunners, but it could also be. Are Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal a team again? Or are they not?
I'm almost sure they're going to be in the battle. But the thing about the battle royal is is everybody going to be in it? Because they keep emphasizing like the match might end even without everybody coming out. So
it's an everybody getting here kind of a match, like, and it's a get them out there because we're paying what it takes to get a talent to London. We might as well throw them out there and have them bump, kind of a thing. And in that way, remind me tomorrow, because tomorrow, same bat time, same bat place, we're going to be here immediately following AEW All In, and we're going to see what we were right about, what we were wrong about, and talk about what we enjoyed or didn't enjoy. And remind me tomorrow, I want to look at the distribution and average of participants in casino matches to see, is there a steady number we should have been expecting? Like, is it 20? Is it 30? Is it 60? Can't be 60. But that's what we're doing tomorrow. Maybe we'll be talking about Becky Lynch. Maybe we'll be talking about... No, that's all I had. Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch would be huge.
I agree.
Do you want to know the only thing huger than Becky Lynch?
John Cena.